What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Kind of Funny Screencast special WWE WrestleMania Ranked. I'm Greg, that's Alex, that's Mike, and we are on our way to the granddaddy of them all. So we invited a member of the wrestling world to pick a WrestleMania match each and every week for us to review and rank before we get to Philadelphia in April. And we've done it, Mike. We've done it, Alex. We're there.
10 weeks.
10 weeks. They said
Finally.
they'd never get there.
Oh,
they
wow,
said
champagne.
this clearly unsuccessful show that the Kind of Funny audience doesn't want will be canceled. And we said not on our watch. We'll do all 10 episodes. Yep. We'll rank and review these matches. We'll listen to you say over and over again, where is the TLC match? To which I would say, I don't know why no one picked it. I don't know either, ladies and gentlemen. So many WrestleMania matches I would have picked over some of these. Jeff Jarrett, JBL, Born Heels coming in, Mike. Just doing all the wrong things all the time.
They did their part to hold us back from greatness. But you know what? It got us together, and it got us talking about wrestling, and that's what matters. And we met some great friends along the way. We have Alex here today.
Queen of the ring,
about
Alex.
Sam coming in. We talk about Mega Ran. You know, I saw Mega Ran live and in person just a couple weeks ago, and I said, it's great to see you again, Mega Ran.
What did he say?
He said, Mike, it's nice to see you.
Didn't even know who you were?
He did recognize me, thankfully.
Okay, good. Alex, we're pouring one out over here in your honor, but as we do, Queen of the Ring,
Thank
Alex,
you.
tell people who are watching who you are.
I am wrestling royalty to some. I'm
To
Alex,
me
Queen of the
you
Ring.
are.
Yes, because you're breaking out the champagne, so why not do it within my presence? Am I correct?
Correct.
I think I am. But I am Alex, Queen of the Ring. I am a wrestling content creator. I've been doing this for 6 years.
Outrageous.
and-
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I come from a theater background. I went to theater school. So that is how I like to view my professional wrestling. I like to come from a theater perspective.
Ooh.
And I love doing it. I love to connect with the community that I have over on Twitch as well, twitch.tv/Queen of the Ring. And we dissect everything with wrestling through the eyes of showcasing television, right? It is television at the end of the day. And I love that even during the pandemic, there have been so many people that got into professional wrestling because we were all in lockdown. I'm sure we're going to talk a lot about that
Just
today.
a bit today.
But just a little bit. Maybe how we were all baking some bread. But
My wife never stopped. The sourdough continues on in our house.
But yeah, I've been doing this for 6 years. I'm lucky enough to have appeared on the WWE network with the Ultimate shows, especially Ultimate WrestleMania. I was on Complex as well, had a Spotify show, and now I'm out on my own on my YouTube channel doing the podcasting and set some predictions for WrestleMania. And I'm so incredibly honored to be here, guys. So
We're
thank you.
honored to have you, Alex. Like, I've watched your stuff for a while. It's great. You are quite good at this, and I appreciate the perspective you take when you come at it, right? There's so many different ways, and I think that's what's so interesting when we talk to Sancho, when we talk to Santi, when we talk to Sam, when we talk to Al, you know what I mean? I acknowledge Amanda, the fact that we can all talk about wrestling from our own perspective and make it so interesting. I appreciate your work. Everybody should like, subscribe, and follow.
Thank you. Thank you. With the millennial heart.
Love it. Ladies and gentlemen, if you like what we do and love us, please support us with the Kind of Funny membership on Patreon or YouTube. Of course, you get all of our shows ad-free. You get the ability to watch us record them live as we record them, just like Pickles, Mr. Hawks, and of course, Toby Blue, who are watching live right now. Of course, you'd also get the daily multimedia extravaganza, Greg Way. Of course, you can get the screencast for free with ads and without the exclusive content on YouTube and podcast services around the globe. You'll be wanting to subscribe to that screencast feed because, of course, today we're going to go this afternoon, record our WrestleMania predictions. That's going live on Thursday on youtube.com/kindoffunny and the screencast podcast feed. Then Monday, we're coming in here and we, of course, are reviewing WrestleMania itself. One big show that'll go up on YouTube and, of course, podcast services around the globe. Thank you to our Patreon producers who make all of this happen. James Hastings, Casey Andrew, Kieran Hovasapian, Carl Jacobs, Kishan Patel, Karen Lindener, Nathan Lamoth. Of course, today we're brought to you by WWE 2K24 and the Kind of Funny membership. But let's start with a video to explain why we're watching this match.
Told you would get the video. Sure, it took a minute to arrive, but it's there before the deadline and save the best to last and all that jazz. And that right, Chaz? And that rhymes. All right, you want a WrestleMania match. You're going to rate it, rank it, whatever the hell. Nah, not this one. Don't want it ranked. Don't be stupid. This one's different. A lot of people recently been making jokes about this particular match because they have short-term memories. That's an issue our entire world has. They like to forget pretty quickly, but I want you all to remember how the world was feeling during this time, how you were feeling, the emotions you were feeling, your family were feeling, and how much this WrestleMania meant to you as a wrestling fan, how much this match may have meant to you, or not, as a wrestling fan, just your honest opinion, thinking back to that time. I'm talking about McIntyre Lesnar, WrestleMania 36, main event. Check it out. Now.
Zoom in on the cat. Let's go back to WrestleMania 36 live from the WWE Performance Center in Orlando, Florida on March 25th and March 26th, 2020 in front of 0 people, Mike. 0.
Well, there were some people, the commentary team, but like,
the
we
ref,
don't count that.
The ref and Paul Heyman, that was about it, right? That was the audience. That was a draw for this one.
The roadies as well. We can't forget them.
Exactly. This is such a special Mania, obviously, that I think before we even get to tail of the tape and start ranking packages and going through this, you need to talk about March 2020. Obviously, if you're listening to this, you lived it, you know it, you understand it. But I think what's fascinating about this match, and I think fascinating about this in general, because I've known a lot of the people who have been in our show here, right? Whether they're submitting matches, in the matches, being on the show. Drew McIntyre is someone I did not know until March 2020. And I mean, obviously I'd seen him here or there. I saw him win the Rumble. I remember that, coming in, Brock, blah, blah, blah. But it was this idea that I had the honor, of course, of going to LA to be on the Fox Sports show WWE Backstage. And it's the one where I did the promo school and cut it on Woods, and Booker T got real mad at me beforehand, but then liked me by the end, and we were fast friends. But also, that's when I met Drew. Drew was there on the heels of, I won the Rumble, I'm getting ready for WrestleMania, I'm doing this shot. And I remember just listening to him talk through at the table read, or maybe even a segment, a little bit of his life and, this whole thing of being the chosen one and then washing out and then coming back and all these different things. And it was like, oh, that's such a fascinating thing. And he was so lovely at taping. And not that he went above and beyond to do anything for me or save my life or something like that. He was just a great guy to be around. Like, I just, oh man, you just felt it radiating off. I'm like, oh, you're a really cool dude, right? To then see everything happen the way it happened in March, to see him win it. But I think more importantly for me personally is that there's companion homework to this match. And they are WWE 24/7. If you watch on Peacock, like so many of us do, there's a show called 24/7 they do that is, the behind the scenes guerrilla style doc of whatever they're talking about. And then it can be also just profiles of people. Season 6, episode 5 is WrestleMania, The Show Must Go On. And it's literally chronicling this mania of, holy crap, this is happening. Triple H talking about, like, it went from a conversation to the time I got where it was, that's what's happening, and we're going for it. And, like, there's all this amazing behind the scenes footage, right? And it chronicles Drew McIntyre being in Europe, filming promo footage for this or whatever, and then basically, I think, texting me, says at 1 a.m. and being like, you got to go now. They're getting ready to close down flights. We got to get you back, or we might not get you back for Mania. And it's recaps, obviously, him being, the rise of Drew, him coming in, being the chosen one from Mr. McMahon, the burnout, being released in 2014, and then coming back. And then, like, what I really think is there's a lot of human moments in this. And, like, we get human moments throughout WWE, and especially in the documentaries, but Drew has this really great line that when we get to the actual match, makes it more than a match for me. I think on paper, it's very 3 out of 5 throughout a lot of stuff we'll talk about. But you have to understand the context and this and that. But it's like, he talks openly about, nothing ever goes to plan in the career of Drew McIntyre. That's actually, so it's season 6, episode 5 is the WrestleMania. Season 6, episode 6 is about him ending with this Mania stuff, right? And it's this idea that he goes into, and he talks about the fact that when he finds out they're doing it from the Performance Center, he's so angry, as I think so many people would be, right? Of like, I finally get this moment, you know what I mean? It's been this entire uphill climb, of being told I'm the chosen one, being put into bad gimmicks, to be released, to fight my way through the indies, to get back here. I finally get to the top of the mountain, and I lose it because of this. This sucks. And then he has this thing of like, then I was embarrassed to actually look into what COVID was, because of course it sounds ridiculous now, but we didn't know. to look into what's actually happening in the world. And he's like so embarrassed that was his initial reaction for it. And then the things he goes through, and I'll talk about later on, of like what he does in his celebration and what that means to him. And it's like, there's so much to it that adds so much to this match. But this is 2020, Mike. And I from a top level for you, you know, having gone through all of these different WrestleManias with us, 9 other WrestleManias, what does this one look like to you and feel like to you?
Yeah, it is very interesting as the newbie of the group and someone who was not watching back then, right? Drew put it so well in the first message of like, think about where you were. And I kind of put myself in that shoes of like, oh, we were isolated and I was alone. But then watching this, I wrote down this was hard to watch, right? Because the match, which we'll get into, but the finale of it all, of this guy finally getting to the peak and there's no one there to celebrate, right? And I think that's where I'm going to rely on you guys. Like, how did that feel on the opposite side as wrestling fans watching this? Because as a new wrestling fan watching that, he goes, man, this is hard, right? Because when we've watched the other WrestleManias, people are cheering, people are crying. You feel that. And wrestling is all about the fans. It's that interaction, that play back and forth. And seeing a man win and finally getting over that hump of, oh, I'm known for the potential, but I never lived up to the potential. Yeah. And now I'm here at the peak and no one's there. And it's hard to convey that feeling of, I feel that for you, man. And I see that through the camera. And maybe I'm feeling that here at home, but watching it now removed from COVID and watching it last week, it's like, oh, this was hard to watch. This sucked for him to win that and 100%. Then be like, oh, it's over. So yeah, that's where my mind went to. Well, I remember being isolated and how much sports brought us together and TV brought us together and how important that was. But I wasn't a wrestling fan. So I wonder, did the wrestling audience love and appreciate this moment as much as it probably deserves?
Alex, 6 years in the game, Queen of the Ring. You lived this. You remember this. What was this like for you?
I mean, for me, I was sad. It was sad because when you think about Drew McIntyre winning the Royal Rumble back in 2020, it was in front of an audience and people were happy that he finally won the Royal Rumble. He's going on to WrestleMania. He's going to main event WrestleMania and go for the WWE Championship. And, you know, he reaches the top of the mountain, but we have to remember the journey there. You know, he left in 2014. He went to go find himself. He did the whole indie circuit. He went through the ICW. He went through Evolve. He went through TNA, you know, and it's something like that for a performer to be in a cog in the machine of WWE and to kind of feel a little bit lost. Like, again, in that documentary, he says, he's like, I don't want to be known as the guy that was doing air guitars in the middle of the ring. So dealing with that as a performer and, you know, of course, I'm sure imposter syndrome is playing a huge role in that as well, right? Feeling like I'm finally getting this opportunity, but it's not what I imagined it to be. It's not the fairy tale story that is particularly always told in wrestling, and especially going to WrestleMania. When you're going to WrestleMania, you're Cinderella going to the ball, you know? And so for Drew McIntyre to finally get there and going against someone like Brock Lesnar, who is very well known to holding that WWE Championship for a long time, having Paul Heyman on his side as well, that's a huge mountain to conquer already, coming back into the WWE, having again found himself, winning championships. He's won championships outside of this, but now it's not the WWE Championship. It wasn't. And so now for him to get that, it was bittersweet as a fan, you know, to see again his journey outside of it, to follow along. I was going to Evolve shows in New York City where he was performing there, and it was great to see him. And then to finally, you know, see again his accomplishments. And then 2020, luckily we were all at home. So, you know, there was no WrestleMania parties, although through Zoom, but it was bittersweet as a fan. And to see someone who has really conquered that, you know, mindset of I have the potential, but I need to get there and I need to continue on and push forward. Like it's a lot. And especially now to see where he is today, I mean, humble beginnings, honestly, now being a part of the main event scene, that championship scene, it all started there in WrestleMania 36. And it's unfortunate because, again, like, you have to feed into the fans. So not knowing, like, I don't know what the audience at home is feeling about me. Are they happy that I'm in this match? Are they happy that I've shown up? I've caught these flights. I'm away from my family. So I feel for him a lot, but as a fan point of view, like it's a little sad, but it's nice to see where he is today.
Yeah, for sure. You know, everything Alex said is true. And the one way I would put, or I guess there's two words that I would always put on this in watching the Performance Center WrestleMania, right, is bizarre and eerie. And I think for me, I didn't watch the 2-night Mania live. I remember Tim came into the office. Well, I guess didn't come into the office. He told me on Zoom or on Discord or on a show or whatever of like, yo, you need to watch this. Like, I know I forget what I was doing. Well, it was COVID or whatever. But it was like, this is special. He might have even texted me. Maybe I did catch Sundays. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But it was like, they're doing something incredible here. You know what I mean? Talking about the Firefly Funhouse match and this, that, and the other and all the stuff. And so you went and watched it, and it was like, at the time, shocking, and then especially now to drop in and kind of forgotten what that was like, to drop in and just to hear the mat, to hear the ref telling get him out of the corner, Les, you know what I mean? Like, to be like, oh, right, like I forgot, even though it sounds ridiculous because it wasn't that long ago, you forgot like before Thunderdome how quiet it was and how much I would go, and I mean, I'm a dork obviously, but how much I would go to, it sounds like certain times in the WWE video games when you are doing a Performance Center training exercise, right? And what it sounds like to just have the mat, to just have the grunts, and to see that in a real sense, and then to go to the bittersweet part of it of like, man, this was his mania. You know what I mean? It's one of those reasons I'm pulling so hard for him at 40, where like, I think he's doing some of the best promo work of his career. I love this weird hate triangle between him, Rollins, and CM Punk, and where's it going to be? Like in that entire, improv promo segment on Raw last week, I was like, this is fucking awesome. And I keep buying every Drew McIntyre shirt that goes up because I love him so much, and they're so funny and good. And so it's like, I want him to have that moment at Mania this year, and I think it fits his story so well of like, I've gone down this dark path and I'm doing the underhanded stuff because I had my moment stolen from me or whatever here.
Oh, that's well said.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting to me. I want to know from you two, really quick before we jump into the match, the whole WrestleMania as a whole. You talk about like Tim texting you, this was special, right? Like, this could have easily been, hey, we're canceling this, right? The world is up in flames. We have no idea what's happening.
Yeah.
We're going to come back another time. But they decided to land on their feet and go with it. Did you feel like, oh, this was good? Or did you watch it going, I don't love this?
I think I watched it with it isn't, this is good or this is bad. I think even today when I watched it, and I watched it from the beginning, right, of like, man, it's so impressive they did this. You know what I mean? In the Drew docs, right? In the the WrestleMania one overall, but Drew and whatever. There's a lot of talk of like, we're doing this so that people have something to distract them from it. You notice, I'm not this is probably not actually correct, but it warmed my heart one time when somebody said to me after I forget what pre-show I was on or whatever, I came off, and one of the producers like, just so you know, you're the first person ever to say COVID on WWE. Because like they go out of their way not to say it, right? And on the programming, obviously the documentaries are different, but like on programming, even for this one, Stephanie's like, in the state of the world, like they were always like, we want to bring your break from reality. We want, leave all that at the door and do all that. So it's like, to get here and have it be that they thought so far outside of the box to do these things and have this stuff, and the show must go on, and Kevin Owens would be like, I'm jumping off the fucking side, you know what I mean? It was like, I think no matter what you were watching, it's similar to Kind of Funny, right? Where it's like, we left the studio with the video wall to go sit on the floor and have Portillo poop on me while I was like, and it was like, there was something, this has to happen, this is what the business is, and you looked at it and like, no matter what it was like, this is cool that it's happening. But it was like always, of course, it isn't what it is. And like, I think, again, they iterated so quickly to get to Thunderdome to make it more like, okay, cool. Like, there's audience sound popped in, there's faces there. This is cool. It's more of what we know. Like, I don't think saying it's good or bad, even though that's what we have to do in a second, it makes sense, but it was what it was.
Yeah.
I was just impressed they did something, Alex.
Yeah. It was, I think, it was just because I had tickets, I had flights to go to Tampa, I was supposed to be at that WrestleMania. And so that was also a toss up as a fan to kind of be like, is it going to happen? Is it not going to happen? And so to finally sit down, this is the thing, is that like professional wrestling has always been built on the show must go on, right? So there was no way to really stop this major event of happening. And so with COVID, obviously we got nothing to do, We're, again, baking bread. We're on these Zoom calls playing Jackbox. We got nothing to do. But I remember sitting down and watching that with friends on Zoom, actually. I remember I was watching it and I was like, this is so weird. But at that time, it was a fascinating time with the company because it felt like they were throwing anything on the wall and seeing what would stick. Like you had Triple H out playing a cameraman, he was doing commentary with Michael Cole, so it was almost an element of if they what they're doing on Monday Night Raw, what they're doing on SmackDown, having Austin come out and doing the what chants and there's nobody there, none of the audience members to do it with him. It was interesting to see what they had up their sleeves for this. And again, with the graveyard match with AJ Styles and Undertaker,
come on,
and
right? Like what a special moment that was.
Yes, just so incredible. Like the cinematic matches were absolutely some of my favorite stuff. But again, to go into this, like you said, like it was eerie. It was weird. It's like doing a stand-up routine in front of like Madison Square Garden and nobody's there except for you on stage, So it was weird. I'm sure as a performer standpoint as well, it's hard to perform because it's, again, how are you feeding off the crowd? Right? How are you feeding off the crowd? How are you going to take those beats to, if the crowd is loving me getting chopped, okay, I have to communicate like, hey, keep going, brother, like take it home or whatever it is.
How do you hide the little things you're able to say?
Yeah. You're hearing everything. And even for Paul Heyman, I remember during the match at one point he said like, this isn't going to be easy. You're going to go down, but it's going to be painful. And it's like to hear that. Some of my favorite things is to hear wrestlers, talking shit a little bit in the ring. So it was like, that was my favorite part about, Thunderdome and the Performance Center was like, oh, what are they going to say this time? But yeah, it was eerie, but it was an experience. We were there.
Yeah, and it's you talk about like I have so many notes from other stuff, right? But it's like the documentaries Drew, right? He's talking about like him being the only person in the locker room, like it's just him back there, right? And he's like, his quote is, "It was mental," right? Of like lacing it up and being like, all right, there's 15 minutes till my WrestleMania match, and he's like, how do you get hyped for this? What do you do? How do you bring yourself up? What do you do with this energy that you have but you don't have, right? And it was the same thing for going through and watching. I put these in my notes for later on, but I think it's worth tossing in here, right? Especially when we get to what I think he's doing and communicating and why it means so much to Drew enough to pick it and put it out here, right? Because he could have picked anything. We don't give notes on what to go, right? One of the things I appreciate here is like in these documentaries he talks about, right? Like he's won titles before, not at WWE or Intercontinental, but like not the big one, but he's won titles before. And he says specifically of like, usually what the moment you get to soak it in is when you finally get back to the hotel room, you close the door, and you're all alone in your room, and you're able to look at it and go, and he goes, quote, "My goodness, I did it," right? And then he goes on in the documentary, he's talking about like, the world got to see that in this match. It's usually behind a private hotel room door. That moment of him dropping to the knees and looking at it, right? And then on top of that, when he talks about like reaching his hand out and putting his there and saying thank you to the fans, right? He's thanking them for being there in that moment. He's like, that was very honest. Like, you know what I mean? He's talking about how important that is to him, both as a performer of winning this thing, but then also being there and letting him still do his job and all of this. Like, there's so much credible, right? And he goes on and he says, for me, that's my WrestleMania moment. And I think that's such an awesome full circle thing for him. And again, there's so much backstage stuff to understand why I think this match is more than it seems. But it is the idea that, like, I get, as somebody, like, keep in mind, like, not even on the same remote caliber, but keep in mind, my personal thing with this would have been that I go in March 2020 down to LA. I cut the promo on Woods, right? If you remember, it goes live. He cuts a promo back to me. And what was supposed to happen is that I was going to go to Chicago, bring my mom, Poe's son, Camp's kids. We were all supposed to go to Allstate Arena, right? Rosemont Horizon Forever in Chicago, right? Go to SmackDown, but I was supposed to challenge for the Up, Up, Down, Down title there. Like, I was supposed to do stuff on their channel. And it was like that thing of like, this is going to be great. And I think it was March 27th, which was my mom's birthday. And it was that thing of like, COVID snapped all that away. And again, like, so I get the anger and then the realization of, wait, there's bigger things happening than my stupid fucking whatever. But to have it go from Drew being like, nothing can go right in my life, in my career, right? To then being like, this is my WrestleMania moment and that meaning. And there's another beautiful moment in the documentary about him, right? Where since this wasn't live, remember they filmed it all and put it together and then did it. He got to watch it on the couch with his wife eating popcorn, and they filmed that.
That's awesome.
And then when he gets presented the belt in the ring, his wife gave him the belt there. And then right after this one broke my heart in such a beautiful way or whatever. They have in the documentary, first off, his brother in Europe being filmed and his reaction to seeing his brother winning. And then Drew screen recorded the Zoom call with his family. And it's like 3 a.m. where they are, right? Where they did this or whatever. And it's like his dad breaks down in tears saying, "Thank you for looking after my boy," to his wife. You know what I mean? It's like, oh my God. And then his dad in the interview is like, that was the proudest moment of my life. You know what I mean? It's like, fuck. You know what I mean? And especially like for all Drew's story and what it was and all this stuff. It's like,
yeah,
dude, Drew McIntyre is the fucking man.
Let's talk about this match.
Like,
let's talk about the match. I'm sorry. No, go please, Alex.
I was just gonna say it's almost reminiscent, like we're talking about WrestleMania, the boyhood dream with Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 12 when he wins that title and he's sitting in the middle of the ring and he's just staring at it. And that's what it reminded me of with Drew. And even in that documentary, it was heartbreaking, but it was also like, well, you know what? He got to experience that with his family at some point, you know, but it was heartbreaking, especially with his dad, like tearing up and it's like, that's my boy. And it's like, family, WrestleMania.
I know, right?
It's the best.
It is, right? And that's what's so special about this and why I think this is such a special match. And I'm happy we're putting it in here. And I thank Drew for sending it in. Ladies and gentlemen, let's, of course, talk about Drew McIntyre versus the WWE champion Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 36. Asterisks, of course. We did this on the way out of the last episode, but they're due here. As you all, I'm sure, are aware if you're watching a wrestling show, Brock Lesnar has accusations of being involved in some heinous shit, which, of course, we don't support, and fuck him if it's true. But we're talking about Brock Lesnar, the character inside of WWE here, and, of course, Drew's moment that he deserves. So he picked the match. We roll with it. Thank you very much. Let's talk about the hype package. Snowbike Mike, I call you the master of hype.
Yep.
You have now seen 10 WrestleMania hype packages in some way, shape, or form. Sometimes they're intercut with entrances. What did you think of this one for WrestleMania 36, McIntyre
You know what?
Lesnar?
On everything that we've talked about in the circumstances, this hype package was actually good. It was a 4 out of 5.
Okay.
It was impressive to me of telling the story. I think we'll talk about the entrances on commentary. Really does a great job of like elevating this, but to see Drew's rise and fall and then rise again of like who he was. I was the future of this company is what Vince McMahon told me. And I had so much potential and I never lived up to it. I got to see that. And of course, we know Brock. I think my only ding on this hype package that would have made it 5 out of 5, we didn't get much Brock storyline, but you don't really need Brock, right? Like, you know, Brock is the beast. He does all that. He's the monster.
Eliminates everybody, right?
We have
and
to
again,
go up
remember,
against him.
I don't think they portrayed this well enough for you stepping in necessarily. When Brock enters the Royal Rumble and eliminates everybody, he's the champion. Like, he's not getting in there being like, I need my shot at the championship. He was coming in and be like, none of you are worth my time. So that was like a really cool, like, that's a neat angle to do this. And so for him to just eliminate every person until Drew shows up is pretty cool.
Yeah, I love the call-outs from Paul Heyman of he's a hyped-up fraud, right? Like, you get some real... When you have Paul Heyman in the mix, right, like, you're going to have some great lines, and we'll talk about it in the match. He has some great one-liners in there, but, I mean, 19 years, ready to complete the destiny. I'm an idiot playing an air guitar is incredible lines, right? Like, made me laugh. And so I think, for me, this hype package sold me on, this is Drew's moment, and I need to rally around him because he's going up against the big bad, which is Brock Lesnar. I know who that is. He kicked him out of Royal Rumble, which was awesome to see, but I think they did a good job at least setting this up for me to know what's going on, which is what I like.
You talk about him kicking him out. Obviously, he kicks him out with the Claymore. Are you familiar with the origin of the Claymore? Someone in chat early on was like, someone needs to tell Mike if he doesn't know.
I mean, no, I thought it was just somebody kicking a man in the face.
I'm reading from the Sportskeeda article way over here, right? This is a quote from Drew McIntyre explaining what happened with the Claymore, all right? Quote, I'm running around in those 80s tight rock and roll pants, and I was running to give a boot in the first match that I had in those leather pants. And I was running, raising my leg for the boot. I realized, these things are going to split at the crotch. I don't want my crotch to split. So I kicked up the other leg, knocked out my opponent, and knocked myself out at the same time. Like, I remember getting up, doing an arm wringer after I did the maneuver, let go of the arm, walked across the ring, tagged out, and fell to the floor because I knocked myself silly. got to the back, and someone pulled me aside and said, if you can do that without killing yourself, you've got something cool there. And I worked on it. And I used a part of my 3MB as my big maneuver that I would use. But it was created because of those leather pants.
Wow. That's insane story. That's wild stuff.
Wrestling,
All right,
right?
now I know.
Think on the fly.
Now I know.
Shout out to leather pants.
Right? Yeah, exactly. That's why I wear them all the time. I never know what I'm going to get. Queen of the Ring, Alex, what did you think of the hype package on the Kind of Funny 5 out of 5 scale?
This was Drew McIntyre's hype package. This was, I agree with you. I think they could have explained a little bit more Brock Lesnar's role in the Royal Rumble, at least, right? He's WWE champion, but it's just like, what is the significance of Drew taking out Brock Lesnar during this? Isn't that the point? Aren't we supposed to eliminate people? What's the element? What's the atmosphere that we're going into this? Why are we going gearing towards Drew? I think they could have done a little bit of a better job with that. But essentially, like, this is Drew McIntyre's story to tell. This is his video package. This is his hype package of this is the reason why we are allowing him to have this platform of winning the Royal Rumble, setting it up, going off to WrestleMania. Again, Cinderella going to the ball and finding Prince Charming. And Drew McIntyre's Prince Charming is the WWE Championship. And I thought that they highlighted this very well. I am going to give it a 3 as well. Because again, I just feel like there was some elements missing more so for the story of Brock. But at the same time, again, if you are a wrestling fan or if you're somewhat familiar, even if you're a UFC fan, you know who Brock Lesnar is. You know how brutal he is as well. But in the element of, sports entertainment, it would have been nice to have a little bit more context about him.
Yeah, I'm right there with Alex. I say 3 out of 5 as well. It's okay. And again, I think it's because it does a good job in what we've been judging these on, especially, right, our time capsules. You're dropping in years later watching, do you get it all? And I think the fact that they don't drive home that Brock Lesnar thinks no one, he's going to do like, they do a great job with, since 2002 and like some great montage clips of him throughout the years winning championships, destroying people, destroying legends, right? Let alone then to, have it be like, this is 19 years in the making for Drew, right? And go through all the stuff of Vince calling the future of the company, 0 title wins. Like, I feel the documentary does a better job of like addressing like getting released, going on this indie scene. Really, yeah, somebody else put it over here, like making Scotland wrestling a thing on the outside, right? Like there's so much stuff to put in there. And I know it's hard to put into a package, but I think it would have gone a little bit further to make this be like, this is him finally getting to the top of the mountain, but the mountain is Brock Lesnar. You know what I mean?
I mean, shout out to his glow up as well.
Oh,
Drew
yeah.
McIntyre.
Oh, my
you're a
God,
man, my
yeah.
man. You look great.
Oh,
It's like
my God.
unbelievable when we see that footage of like young Drew with this giant ponytail and he's all scrawny. And then I look at Drew now, I'm like, he left a boy, came back a man, they say in the commentary. And I'm like, yeah, that's a man right there.
Another great part of the documentary when he's talking about doing that, but I digress. I'll stop shilling for Peacock, which has a great show called This Is Awesome. You should watch. I digress.
Who's the host?
Oh, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. 3s for me and Alex, 4 for Mike for the hype package. Let's move on to the entrances. Alex, why don't you start us off?
Okay, I'm a little biased. It's WrestleMania. I was expecting something, maybe some CGI, a little bit more CGI entrances. It's WrestleMania. I'm used to Shawn Michaels ziplining down.
Sure.
I'm used to like the big Bianca Belair, band as well. For this entrance, we talked about this before where, commentary did a good job in, carrying on the performers as they were entering into the ring. But for me, I'm going to be a little harsh and I'm just going to give it like a 2.5. Just 2.5.
Okay.
It's WrestleMania, like it's the bedazzle, it's the Broadway of it all, it's the pageantry of WrestleMania. And I know that they were confined with the means of what they could have done with, lockdown and COVID, but just a little harsh.
Yeah, this is for me really where the word eerie came together. The empty arena, and then it's that idea of like they drive home, 3 years away, after being released. You get it a bit from Drew looking around the arena, but it's also then you see him, I feel like, try to do the old standards of how you would normal play or grunt or whatever. And yeah, they have the great line, left as a boy, returned as a man. But there's this moment where he takes off the jacket and throws it over the top rope, and you hear it hit. And I'm like, that's so fucking crazy
Yeah.
that you're hearing the jacket hit the pads outside because nothing else happening. However, I go 3 out of 5. That's okay. Because again, the constraints of it, but more importantly, Brock Lesnar. His walk to the ring, like Brock's always been the da-dun, 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 you know what I mean? But it's just like, I'm here to fuck you up. And like with a shorter ramp and a shorter thing, that works. You know what I mean? He's there to fuck this up. But again, short ramp and this, that, there. Does it feel like WrestleMania? Of course not, but it didn't feel like WrestleMania at the moment either. We were just happy to have something. Mike?
Yeah, I'm there with a 3 out of 5. I'm just like Alex said, I wrote commentary really carried here, right? Because everything is shortened. And I think it works very well for Brock with the shortened one of like, I've seen Brock before. I know what that walk looks like. So to have it in a tighter package, I prefer that. But for Drew, right, it is, you hear the huffs and the puffs and he's walking in and there's this weird moment of like, he's looking around and you're like, man, this would be the moment when the roof is exploding, right? Like people would be going nuts. And it is wild to just be dead silent, to hear footsteps. And the commentary even is like super eerie as well, because normally it's like the commentary with the crowd behind them. And it's like, this is all a wild feeling. But I am really impressed. You talked about COVID and the world of lockdown. And really, if you look at the dates, how fast they turned this around to host WrestleMania after we were locked down, 2 weeks ahead of time? So it is wild to me to think of like, oh, I guess the Performance Center, sure, it's probably like that. But like they got WrestleMania ready as good as they could that fast. The screen and the ramp, as small and as weird as they look good for a production like this. And so I'm giving it a 3 out of 5. I enjoyed this. Sure, it could have been bigger and better for the big stage, but I'm impressed if you think about the timelines and where we were.
Yeah, I'm jumping back. I looked at it earlier when I was doing my little bit of research before. I'm sure I'm going to get some of it wrong. I want to say it's March 12th that they're like, a meeting was held by Tampa officials on March 12th to determine the fate of WrestleMania 36. It was decided that the event would still proceed as planned, barring that they got worse or whatever, blah, blah, blah. On March 16th, WWE announced that the event would be held at the Performance Center. 10 days later.
Yeah.
And again, like, think about, like, the doc about WrestleMania, 24/7, available where we can get this is awesome, does a great job of, like, being at the press conference where they announced they're coming to Tampa Bay and Hogan's there and he's talking, he's with the pyro and the fans, and they go 1 year later and they jump to, like, Rhea Ripley walking out to see it, and then that's the top of the month, and then by the month it's all over, right? It's the idea that, like, in the same way when Jeff Keighley does Game Awards, the next day he starts planning the next Game Awards. Like, think about how long you plan a WrestleMania to get there at literally the 11th hour and be like, all right, cool, it's all out the window. We got to, I mean, like, no matter how long they started thinking about this idea, which would have been tops a month, insane that they were able to pull off anything, let alone do it, but I digress. We got entrances all out of the way. Now we're into matches. Yeah, sorry. So 3s for me and Mike, 2.5 from Alex. First ever 0.5. I'll let it slide. I'll let it slide. I'll let it go. Let's talk about the match itself. I don't know if there's ever been a better, hey, it's one of the WWE video game matches brought to life.
Oh, yeah.
Because this is like, hey, it's you and your friend fucking around. You're like, you know what? We're giving it all finishers. We're starting with 5 finishers apiece. Let's just go out there and screw around. Because you go out there, immediately a Claymore. You know what I mean? Brock gets a second Claymore. You're like, oh, shit, okay, fuck. And we've never seen anyone kick out of the Claymore, right? And then, get up, you son of a bitch, from Drew. And then you can hear Paul, great. I wrote down the exact same quote you brought up, Alex. I told you it would be quick, but I won't. But it wouldn't be painless. I'm like, God damn, that's why you're Hall of Famer, Paul. But then F5, kick out at 1. Brock can't believe it. F5, kick out at 2. F5, 3, kick out at 2. Brock screams, he's really good. Hit him again, says Heyman.
That's so good. That's an incredible
right? And then,
line.
like, we had to finish in its own section. So that's the match. That's the match. A ton of Germans, of course. German suplex. You love to see it. 2 meaty men slapping together. But it's just it's a blur of a match.
Yeah, it is really interesting to me. I would love to know behind the scenes if this was to be without COVID in a perfect world. Would this be longer? Would this be bigger? Everyone always tells me, oh, this is kind of like a Brock match. Brock does this, Mike. And like, it is interesting. I wrote down in my notes, like, there's no grappling or submission in this. It is suplex, F5, Claymore, and we're kind of out of there. And it felt so fast and rushed. But I think for the moment, right, commentary continues to carry. having Paul Heyman talking in the background is such a big plus, and being able to hear it clearly is wild, right? And even Drew, of like Alex brought up, right? I'm not used to hearing the wrestlers ever, right? And I'm always interested of like, well, what are they talking about? Are they checking in with each other? Are they asking like what's next? Are they hyping each other up? Are they chirping at each other? And it is interesting of like, oh, now there's no sound, so you better be mindful of what you're saying.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that's something they think about. But you see Drew holding onto the ropes. He's, get up. Coming at you. Get up. And it's like, oh, man, like you can feel it. And it is really interesting. I don't know, for to be the finale and for this poor guy to reach the tippy top, it just doesn't, it's not a fun match to watch. It's one of those where I'm like, I'm at the edge of my seat and then it's over. And I'm like, oh man, that was crazy. It was a whirlwind. But I'm going to give him a 3 out of 5 because I think hearing them was impressive. It's the ultimate video game boy's dream of like only supers. Everybody does their ultimate nonstop, you know? Like, I guess that's my dream. So I'll give it a 3 out of 5.
To piggyback, I gave it a 3 out of 5 as well. It's okay. And I think it's one of those where it's one of those very special moments. And granted, there's many of them during COVID, but it's this idea that like, when you get to listen to, when somebody's all of a sudden for no reason on Twitter's like, here's fucking David Lee Roth's vocals off this one song, nothing else. And you just get to hear that. You're like, wow, that's impressive. It's the same thing here where everything Paul does, the ref does, Drew does, Brock does, happens in a real match. You just see it mouthed usually, right?
Yes.
Or you're lucky enough to catch it off a shotgun mic. To hear the way Paul Heyman goes, like, and I'm such a Paul Heyman guy, you know what I mean? I'm so happy to hear, yeah, Drew getting there, get up, you son of a bitch. It's like, oh, fuck yeah, you know what I mean? But then it's also like, this is weird. Like, you feel like the whole match feels like something's wrong, and I don't know what's wrong. I don't know why it's off, but it's wrong. Alex, what did you think of the match?
It was just so off. And again, it was because of the silence, right? Because when I believe the announcer was Greg Hamilton, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it's right.
The announcer, like, even in this corner, here's the challenger, Drew McIntyre, and that was it. And it was crickets. And you would expect some cheering, right? And it was just, again, it was just off. Like, there was something off, but then there was something like really cool. Again, just spamming finishers all across the board throughout that entire match. Just wild. But then it makes me think, like, how would a live crowd react to this kind of match? You know, like I would think that, me personally, I love when a match like starts off so hot and we get a finisher like right there. Because again,
it's Mike Rome. Sorry. I was like, wait a second. I don't think it was Hamilton. Mike Rome is the announcer on this one. Furiously Googling.
There we go. It was Mike Rome. And he did a great job. He really did do a good job. But again,
it's the same thing as isolated vocals. Where to hear them,
yes.
you know, even now when Samantha's like, you know, fucking anybody, Becky Lynch, you know, you don't hear the inch like when she stops because the crowd's going crazy.
Yeah. And the crowd is like cheering as they're like, and here's the next challenger.
Yeah.
Everyone's like roaring and roaring and roaring. So it was like a fascinating experience. Again, being, whether you're a lifelong wrestling fan, whether you're like just getting into it like Mike, like it's just weird to experience that for my little ear biscuits. It was very, very weird. But again, this match, dude, Paul Heyman was my favorite element throughout this match. Because again, like going back to say WrestleMania 30, when Brock Lesnar broke the streak with The Undertaker, right? Like we could hear Brock, we can see his emotions, you know, and we're like reading the body language, but to actually like listen to every single thing that he is saying. And again, like you're saying, like what you mentioned before, there's a different way that they were probably performing that night because, you know, calling spots, you can't do it. The mic is hot, you know, you can't do it in that element. But to me, I thought this was a fun match. Like if I was experiencing this live, I can only imagine, you know, this is the main event. This is the final match of the weekend. Our first WrestleMania having 2 nights. I think at the point in the company, like everyone, I think the WWE universe were really gearing behind Drew McIntyre. And I think this is a silly match, sure. Because again, like just the finishers, just out of the wall, you know, but I'm going to give this match a 3. I'm going to go with you guys on this one. It was fun. For me, it was fun. But yeah, it's a little spooky in a way to just kind of silence, just silence of like Brock Lesnar, WWE champion. It's like,
All right,
where's,
now
where's
fight.
the cheering? No
Yeah.
boos, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, it is interesting you bring that up, Alex, of like, this fascinates me. I'm always interested in the production behind the scenes, especially
Oh, you gotta watch this
in a
documentary. You
situation
gotta
like
watch
this.
this
Yeah,
documentary.
now I want to watch that because, like I brought up, right, the world shut down, but like we had a number of things try their best to make this happen, and we're watching it live here with WrestleMania, and I'm fascinated by what's the production look like behind the scenes, who's making the calls, how do they organize that, and now I want to watch the whole 2 days because you have to think, just like Alex said, right, commentary to ringside announcers to wrestlers all have to do something different and pivot so quickly. Like when we talk about that timeline. So what is day one, match one sound like and look like? How did they evolve and go, hey, Greg, like, just so you know, when you're in there, you got to do this or that, like, be mindful. Or, hey, commentary, like, you got to pick it up a little bit because it's dead silent in there. I am very fascinated if I watch the whole 2 nights. Did it improve from night 1 to night 2? What were the subtle moments and
Well, keep in mind
differences?
too, like I wish it was that easy, but it's not because they filmed everything out of order.
Oh.
So it's not
Oh,
2
wow.
nights back to back. It
That's
is all these
crazy.
different things where it's even like, you know, it's this really weird, you know, Alex, you mentioned your theater background, right? And like, I only ever did high school theater, but I remember what it was like to wrap a production, do this thing. And I've been on sets when you finish off a shoot or whatever. And there's this great moment in it must be the WrestleMania one, not the Drew one, where Edge climbs up the ladder and like gives like a rap party speech to everyone there of like, we're gonna get you home to your families. This is my return to the ring from 9 years. Like, thank you for being here. And it's like that thing of like, wow. And even in Drew's documentary, I believe it is, he goes backstage after, you know, winning the title or whatever. And like Michael Hayes is there. And there's this moment where Hayes puts out for a fist bump and Drew's like, can we do this? And it's like, what? Oh, right,
Yeah.
COVID. Like, nobody knew what the fuck we were doing yet. You
that's
know what
crazy.
I mean? Of, like, what you're doing.
Yeah, it's so wild.
So-
It's so wild. And then also to think about, like, I think at that point, since it was such like the beginning of COVID, they were only limited a certain amount of people to be in the building.
Hence
right?
the giant
Like,
break,
they were-
filming it all out of order and weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, out of order. Also during matches, I don't remember who exactly said this. I want to say it was probably Rhea Ripley or Charlotte Flair, where there were certain points where they cut and they had to reset doing a
just gonna
move.
ask
They
that.
had to reset doing that. They had to do that. They luckily enough had the opportunity to do 2 takes, do 3 takes. But when you're
Unheard
out
of
there
in
live,
professional
especially
wrestling.
for a WrestleMania, exactly, it's so unheard of. So there's the benefit of that, but it's also like, does that mess you up when you're finally in front of a crowd? You know, like you can't. There's no second takes.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask is, yeah, did they ever cut and say, hold up, or, hey, let's improve that? Because it's so interesting of, yeah, you get to tape this now.
You do
This
something you
is
could never do,
Your
yeah.
world, and it
Yeah.
is fascinating to me. I didn't even think of that, like Alex said, of like, oh, I guess you could just say, hold up, or, hey, we did that, come back 20 minutes later, let's reset because I'd like something different. That's cool.
Let's move on to the finish. For me, I put the finish starting with Drew grabbing Brock's legs. Brock laughs like the villain he is and goes, all night long, dude. And then fucking it's Claymore, second Claymore of the match, third Claymore of the match, fourth Claymore of the match. Fucking finally, and then he pins him. And it was like, as it's like, this is like so many things from when Macho Man in the show dropped so many elbows. We're like, okay, cool.
Yes.
Where it's again like unlimited finishers, I get it, it's on or whatever. And so for all the Claymores and like to actually lay out Brock and then actually win, it is such a, I hate to say it, underwhelming finish, even though it's so many Claymores and it's Brock Lesnar going down. I think it is, you don't have the audience going crazy, and the commentators are doing their best, but they're not going crazy because you are in a contained room in the small space, all these different things, right? However, I do love, as always, Paul Heyman's reaction to this, right? Like his reaction is so much like, fuck it. You know what I mean? Like, God damn it, this guy wins. And then for me, I give this finish, which is going to sound crazy, I'm sure, a 4 out of 5.
Wow.
Where I think Claymores and that, I like the grabbing the legs. I like the all night long dude. Then the Claymore. It's like whatever. But then it's back to what I was talking about at the very top of this show, where it's like knowing the backstory, hearing Drew talk about it, knowing and understanding like he's making the best out of a situation he was given of like, cool, you're going to win the championship with no one there. No one's ever done that. That's, well, technically Mankind at half the time Heat, but that's a different conversation. No one's ever done that in the way you're doing it kind of thing for your first time. But then to have what I said earlier, right, of like this is usually at the hotel room. This is usually behind the scenes, right? For him to be like, this is my WrestleMania moment when he reaches out. Because when he reaches out and I'm watching it, even on back, because what happened is I watched this match, then I went and watched those docs again. Him reaching out, it's like, oh, is this for his wife, his family? And then the thank you, I'm like, oh, okay, it's for everybody. I get it. But then for him to be like, that's my WrestleMania moment, right? Like, and then the wife thing and the stuff, and it's like, God damn it. Like, this is a great finish, I think, with all of that, which sounds like cheating, but also I'm going to grade on a curve because it was COVID and everybody's doing something they didn't have to do before. Mike, what did you think of the finish?
Yeah, that's a tough one for me, Greg. It's like, how am I grading this? Because for me, I put this as a 2 out of 5. I actually really did not like the finish because I think it misses that emotion. It misses that pop, and it ends so quickly. And I think that's just because of taping and COVID. But like when we watch other WrestleManias, it is the biggest and the baddest. There is that moment of, I've made it to the mountaintop, and I'm sharing that with all of you right now. Fireworks, glitz, and glamour. And this just feels so eerie and so awkward, like you said, of it's me and him one-on-one with the camera, and I know he's trying to connect with me, but it's my first time watching it, right? Maybe it'd be different if I watched years of it, but I'm like, man, this is like, I don't know what to say to you, man. Like, I love that you made it here, and I can feel your presence, but I'm not connecting with this because there's nothing. They're not even playing like music, it feels like. It's just like, hey, we're here and we're out of this. So I think if I could rewind time, I would look at it and be like, we got to find a better way at the finale here to make this feel a little bit more. It feels intimate for sure, but there's something missing to make it
here's my
WrestleMania.
And you're not wrong. You're not wrong. I think, again, though, for me, it's about being on the timeline. Where for me, it's so similar to when we went work from home and those first 2 days, day and a half, whatever it was just audio. Because we hadn't figured out video yet.
Yeah.
Like, that's the same thing. Where at the end, when he gets up and does his, it's like, dude, that pops so huge with the crowd, but not alone. But also, how do you know that until you do it? You're like, you watch back, like, oh, that didn't work the way I wanted it to. You know what I mean? Like, but I also understand that, it's what you're going to do. You're going to grade. I give it a 4, you give it a 2. Mm-hmm. Alex?
I'm going to be in the middle and give it a 3.
Fair.
Because I'm in the middle between you guys, like I think the finish, when you consider the documentaries, when you add those elements, like it is a pretty good finish for Drew McIntyre. But again, jumping off of what Mike was saying with the emotions, I had a difficult time with that because it was like, yes, where's the emotion? But as a fan, am I filling in the emotion for them? Because I know what to expect and I know what this means to someone like Drew McIntyre, who has finally reached the mountain. I think with that, and again, like, I think how would this play out in front of a crowd when Drew McIntyre is hitting those 4 claymores? It's like, how would a crowd react to that? Because again, you're not getting the energy from it, the adrenaline from it, and you're not getting for example, a Michael Cole jumping up and down, losing his voice, calling the match, So again, where is the element and where is the emotion for this? I think it was there, but I think it was more so a fill in the blank because they had so many obstacles to jump through. And especially for Drew, I mean, coming from Europe to come to America, you had to do it so quick so that you're not locked away over there, and locked down over there. So I think with the finish, it was a great finish for Drew McIntyre, for especially for us as fans as well, because him looking into the camera and saying thank you, for wrestling fans, this was 2 weeks into the pandemic, it was so fresh, and this was such a fresh event, and I'm sure everybody, not just like solo wrestling fans, people that were just bored, were probably watching this, and his like thank you is like, thank you for believing in me, thank you for trusting me to be your WWE champion, but also just thank you for watching this and being here with us. And it's kind of a relatable thing of like, oh wow, like, yeah, you're welcome, I'm glad that you've won the WWE championship, and again, go back to following his career when he left in 2014 to find himself again winning the championships all across the board, but not the main title in WWE to finish it off. I'm very much in between of it. It was good when you add the elements to the documentary. I think when I think about the finish, I think more of, again, what his dad said of like, thank you for taking care of my boy. And I'm like, He did it for his dad.
God damn
He
it.
didn't do it for us.
Then when his dad afterwards is like, his mom who's passed away has watched every match. I'm like, Dad, you can't do that to me right now. You can't do that to me right now. So, Mike, I want to start with you then for the overall. What would you rate this match?
Overall, this is a 3 out of 5. I think we talked a lot about Drew's rise, and I think that's what really carries this for me is like getting to understand Drew McIntyre as a person and as a wrestler of like what was his story and where does he place. And it's heartbreaking and it's hard to watch that like this guy got his shots, but it was all taken from him. We did this in a warehouse with no one around, and it was brand new and it was fresh. And I'm sure they would love to rewrite history and try different ways if they could, but this is what we were dealt, and they did it. And there was fun moments. There was some really badass finishers the whole time, but I would have loved to have more for him. And I think that's what this match deserved, was more.
And that's my thing too. 3 out of 5. I think it's okay. And again, like it's COVID and it's day one of pretty much COVID. So I get all of these things. I'm not doing. And again, though, like my biggest thing is like everything I've talked about throughout this of like, I love Drew McIntyre in a way I don't love a lot of superstars. You know what I mean? In like the way of like, in the way I fucking hate Xavier Woods, I love Drew McIntyre. I want the best for this man. I hope he gets his Mania moment at 40. I hope he wins this and we set up wherever we're going with Punk and Rollins, but we'll figure that out later. But like, yeah, 3 out of 5 here. It's the best it can be, I think, under the circumstances. Alex, are we crazy?
Yeah. We said it on the top of the show, like this is overall 3 out of 5. You know, it's not the best, it's not the worst. I think if I'm looking back on this now and seeing where Drew McIntyre is today, it is the week of WrestleMania. We're going into WrestleMania 40, facing off against Seth Rollins for, the World Heavyweight Championship. I feel like WrestleMania 36 was almost a homecoming for Drew McIntyre and what he was going to become eventually now today in 2024, 4 years later, after WrestleMania 36. And this is again, I keep saying Cinderella story, but it just feels that way in my definition of this match with Drew McIntyre. He's finally reached the mountain, and it was to see where he goes from here. Overall, the match, it was a match. It was a match, it was a match. I think if you how sometimes on YouTube they'll be like, here's the full match of Drew McIntyre and Brock Lesnar, and it's like the card of like the screenshot and the thumbnail, but it's actually 2K footage instead of the actual match. That's how this match felt for me.
Fair enough. I love that. That's a good one. Of course, this is WrestleMania ranked and reviewed. Mm-hmm. We've covered the reviewed. We haven't gotten to the ranked. And of course, we need to have our segment One Man Gang. But before then, I'll remind you about the Kinda Funny membership. If you are a Kinda Funny member, either on Patreon or YouTube, of course, you get each and every episode of the Screencast ad-free. Of course, you get the ability to watch us record all the afternoon podcasts live as you record them, just like Toby Blue, who's been popping off in the chat, FSI, and of course, Mr. Hawks have been enjoying. And you get the multimedia daily experience known as Gregway. However, you're not using your membership benefits right now, so here's a word from our sponsor. This episode of WrestleMania Ranked is brought to you by WWE 2K24. Step into the ring and finish your story with new match types like ambulance and casket matches, a roster of more than 200 superstars and legends, new career mode experiences, and so much more. The latest installment of the franchise features several advancements, including 2K Showcase of the Immortals. 40 years in the making, WWE 2K24's Showcase mode puts players in control, playing through the most iconic moments in WrestleMania history, as 2K's distinctive slingshot tech seamlessly morphs from gameplay to live action footage and back again for the most immersive WrestleMania video game experience to date. Finish your story with Standard Edition cover superstar, the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes, or Deluxe Edition cover superstars Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair when WWE 2K24 launches on March 5th with early access and March 8th worldwide. Pre-order WWE 2K24 and receive 1 month of Peacock, US only, and WWE 2K23 digital only to play while you wait. Kinda Funny turns 9 years old today. We could have made it 9 days without your support. That's why 2024 is all about doubling down on our shows and making it simpler than ever for you to get the most out of our content. Our revamped Kinda Funny membership is your one-stop shop for all our amazing content, which now includes on a weekly basis the Kinda Funny podcast, In Review, the Kinda Funny Games Cast, P.S. I Love You XOXO, the Kinda Funny X-Cast, the brand new series Kinda Funny Game Showdown. 5 episodes of Kinda Funny Games Daily, and 5 exclusive Gregway vlogs.
And 5 days of streaming fun with me and the gang here in our newly revamped streaming space. It's going to be filled with a ton of laughter and a whole lot of shenanigans. We'll see you there.
That's more than 20 pieces of content a week from an 11-person independent team in San Francisco. That's a lot. And to get the most out of it, all we're asking for is $10. $10 gets you the Kinda Funny membership, and that entitles you to ad-free versions of the shows, the ability to watch the podcast live as we record them, and the exclusive access to my daily show, Gregway. You can get your Kinda Funny membership on patreon.com/kindafunny or youtube.com/kindafunnygames. Yes, we are expanding our Kinda Funny membership offering to YouTube so people can take full advantage of the platform they prefer. If you want to go above and beyond the Kinda Funny membership to support us, we will still have higher Patreon tiers, albeit with some changed up perks. We just wanted to make the message as clear as possible that the $10 Kinda Funny membership is for the masses to get all of the core content people love. Everything above that is very appreciated. The support means the world to us. You all are the best. But the $10 Kinda Funny membership available on both patreon.com/kindafunny and youtube.com/kindafunnygames is where we see the value of what we do. Kinda Funny is a dream come true, and we wouldn't have it without you. We hope if you've ever enjoyed the content, you can support us for at least a month as we prepare for our biggest year ever. Until next time, it's been our pleasure to serve you. Tim, Alex, it's time for One Man Gang.
Yes.
Usually this is where Cool Greg comes on and says, hey, this is what I thought of the match, gang. But as you know, we're down at Tim Geddes today. Tim Geddes was needed on the stream, so he wasn't able to be here. But ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the stage, the man who will host our WrestleMania predictions, the man who will host our WrestleMania review, screencast, youtube.com/kindafunny, Tim Geddes.
What's up, everybody? Oh, that was weird.
That was not what you wanted.
Why'd you immediately talk about Alex?
I appreciate
Stop
you.
God
liver
damn.
over here. Gosh.
I'm bummed that I didn't get to do the show with you, but you guys have been absolutely crushing it so far. I agree with you guys for the most part with all of this, but there is
Congratulations on 10 episodes.
Thank you. Cheers. Didn't expect that. I love it. I gotta say that I agree most with the fact that this is the Cinderella story, the beginning of what we now know Drew McIntyre to be, which I really appreciate. I
The
think that
WrestleMania savior.
it's very important to have him have these moments to get him where he's at now. I really hope he gets some major wins this weekend. I think he's going to. Very exciting stuff. This match was a stinker, though. Like this was. I can't be as kind as y'all are being. Like it was, I think, bad. And the match itself wasn't bad, but the context of the match happening this way makes this a bad match.
boss baby.
You can't have the Brock Lesnar, Drew McIntyre, the size of these men with the finishers they have and what those finishers mean. We know what they mean. To do it over and over and over to no reaction. It's a bad call. It makes it look lesser than. I really, really feel that way. And I say this as a big fan of the weirdness of the pandemic WrestleManias. Like I appreciated them trying something different. I appreciate how close to them launching, how close to the pandemic starting and them having to deal with this and all that
The
stuff.
launch of COVID-19.
But having
it
said
was in
that-
beta for a while.
Yeah, exactly. Early access. But having said that, it's like they didn't do a great job. Like I do not want to give them flowers for what they did with this because like they pushed off to the last second to make the decision to
That's true.
to do this. Like they could have planned it so much.
I remember
better.
I remember when we were on the lead up to it where it was like they did the thing I read where fucking Florida was like, nah. It's still going on. I'm like,
hold
really?
on.
It's really going to still go?
So yeah, because of that, I'm a little more resentful of this Mania compared to the next one, which I think they did a much better job with. And even having said that, I think there were so many better matches at this WrestleMania using what they had to their advantage here, and to end with this moment that. Brock Lesnar, man, it is final boss energy type shit, and for him to be taken down, and I will say the hype package for this incredible. I loved the look back. I love when you do the montage. You can't do it all the time, but when you go back and look at every accomplishment that somebody has done, and they did that for Lesnar, and it really shows how dominant he's been for decades of just putting people down. And whenever he came back, he's gonna win, whether we fucking like it or not. And let me tell you guys, I did not like it. I've not been a Brock fan ever. And seeing him just win and win and win, this is one of those moments where the good guy's gonna win, the good guy's gonna take him down. It just didn't come together for me. Didn't come together at all. But
well, fair enough.
Love you guys.
That's why we don't include you on the real show. That's why you're limited to the Cool Greg effect. You know what I mean? Man, hater.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
just a Drew McIntyre crybaby over there.
You know, not only that, I mean, clearly anti-woman as he clearly stepped in front of Alex to block her off the show. You hate to see
Out
it.
of all months, Women's History Month at that. Oh no, it's April, but still.
We've gone on to rank the matches, ladies and gentlemen. This is our 10th entry. Currently, the 1 through 9 looks like this. Number 1, Rock versus Hogan, WrestleMania X8. Number 2, Taker versus HBK, WrestleMania 25. Number 3, Warrior versus Savage at WrestleMania 7. Number 4, Austin versus Hart at WrestleMania 13. Number 5, Becky versus Bianca at WrestleMania 38. Number 6, Kofi versus Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania 35. Number 7, Bayley versus Charlotte versus Sasha versus Nia at WrestleMania 33. Number 8, JBL versus Finlay at WrestleMania 24. And number 9, Razor Ramon versus Jeff Jarrett. JEFF at WrestleMania 11. Alex, before we even rank Drew versus Brock, WrestleMania 36, what do you think of our 1 through 9 rankings? Damn, she hates it.
Okay. I am biased with 2, and Kofi versus Daniel Bryan I think should be a little higher, but
Sure.
again, I'm biased because I was there live, and
we were
my
too.
gosh,
We should have hung out.
We should. Maybe we will this weekend. Who
Maybe.
knows? But yeah, and Taker versus Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels is the one that got me into.
So you'd put that
this
number 1 because that's
universe.
number 2 right now. Pretty respectful ranking.
I would put it in number 1.
Okay, fair enough.
I'd put it
Fair
in
enough.
number 1.
Well, then, I know I read this very quickly to you, and I know, you have the document in front of you. Where would you rank Drew versus Brock? What's your vote?
I'd put it in the bottom.
Bottom! Beneath
I'd put it in
Razor
the
and
bottom.
Jeff Jarrett.
Oh, yeah. Wait, actually, you know what? I think I would put it, now that I'm actually seeing the list, you know what? I think I would put it number 8.
Number 8. Okay, so you would put it
Yeah.
beneath Bayley versus Charlotte versus Sasha versus Nia and above JBL versus
Yeah.
Finlay.
Yeah, WrestleMania 33 was my first WrestleMania live experiencing this. So again,
Okay.
there's a lot of bias. I'm sorry.
Here's where I come down to.
Lay it on me, Greg. What do you got?
I personally would put this beneath Kofi versus Daniel, above Bayley versus Charlotte versus Sasha versus Nia. Because again, in the same way Kofi Mania was the story and what did we think of the match, back, blah, blah. Like, I feel like it's the bigger picture of the documentaries. And I know I'm grading on a curve, so whatever.
Yeah.
I would put it there because of this is a whether you it would how great was the match, whatever. It was like, are they they're fucking doing Mania. They're making it happen.
Yeah, it's interesting. Both of you going with the 8 and the 7, if I have my numbers
You
correct.
nailed it. You nailed it.
And that's where I am falling right now as well, of in my mind going back and forth. I think it's settling in between one of those two numbers. But unfortunately for me, it is 8 because that Raw women's title fatal 4-way with those women was incredible. They had grand entrances. It was fun to watch. They put on some incredible moves in an awesome match. And it would be tough for me to look at you and be like, after what we just watched, it was better than what those 4 did. And I do think that the grand scale of it all, having the real WrestleMania vibe and really what those 4 women did in the match, I think is the reason why I'm going to put this at 8.
Well, there you go. It enters at number 8, which means our final WrestleMania ranked list looks like this.
Lock it in.
Number 1, The Rock versus Hollywood Hogan at WrestleMania X8.
It was so good.
The Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels, the Heartbreak Kid at WrestleMania 25. The Ultimate Warrior versus the Macho King, Randy Savage
He was
at number
freaking-
3, WrestleMania 7. Number 4, Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Bret the Hitman
He was
Hart
bleeding.
at WrestleMania 13. Number 5, Becky Lynch, the man, versus Bianca Belair at WrestleMania 30. I technically Hollywood backs that, but it doesn't matter. Number 6, Kofi Kingston versus Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania 35. Number 7, Bayley versus Charlotte Flair versus Sasha Banks versus Nia Jax at WrestleMania 33. Number 8, Drew McIntyre versus Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 36. Number 9, JBL versus Finlay at WrestleMania 24 in a Belfast brawl. Oof. And then number 10, Razor Ramon versus Jeff Jarrett at WrestleMania 11. What are we watching next week? WrestleMania, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, going up tomorrow, Thursday, if you're watching this one, it's later, we will have our review of, or not our review, our preview of WrestleMania, our predictions, our thoughts, our things. And then Monday, we will be recording our review of WrestleMania. You can watch us record them with your Kind of Funny membership, available on YouTube and, of course, patreon.com/kindoffunny.
I believe that's also a public one as well.
I know, but I just wanted to make it simple, and I want people to pay us for stuff.
But you can get
I want them to
get it
pay
ad
us so
free
we can
with the
pay
membership.
you, Barrett.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean?
Good call.
Barrett wants to work for nothing.
All right, well, I got none of the bubbly, so I'm out of here anyway.
Why do we only have one bubbly left? There has to be more bubbly. Open it into the bottle. I'm ready to roll, baby. Let's have a good predictions episode. Mike, you're driving me home.
Let's have a great time. Thank you, Alex, for being here. You've been so much fun to be around.
Thank you guys so much for having me. This is an incredible experience to finally get together with you guys. And I had so much fun reminiscing about WrestleMania. And I have to admit, I'm leaving to Philadelphia tomorrow. And this episode got me pretty pumped.
I cannot wait. Alex, everyone needs to keep up with you. Queen of the Ring, but you spell it different. How do you spell it?
The Queen of the Ring?
You put 2 G's on Twitter.
Oh yes, yeah. On Twitter, yes. On Twitter, I put 2 G's, Queen of the Ring, because someone stole it, and now I have to cash in on a Money in the Bank, I guess, to defend it. So you can follow me on Twitter, Queen of the Ring. 2 G's, youtube.com/Queen of the Ring Wrestling for my podcast. I've got great videos. I got my predictions up. I've also do some countdowns of best wrestling gear from other companies that is not WWE.
Say it. What are we? What are you doing? AEW, New Japan? What are we up
Bucks, yeah, Young Bucks, AEW, Mercedes Moné. Got those countdowns.
Oh, we
with their top gears and what I
Mercedes
love.
Moné around here.
Monet.
Love her so much. Twitch.tv/Queen of the Ring as well. Every Thursday, I'm watching Lucha Underground, also Church of Joshi. You can follow us there, where we dissect and get into Japanese wrestling with Stardom, TJPW, all that good stuff. It's a lot of knowledge to gain within professional wrestling, but I am here to help you out as I can.
You're crushing it. You're killing it. Like I said, I love your content. I'm so happy to collaborate with you. I think, I have in my notes here, obviously, to thank every guest, every superstar, every host we've had on. And it's that thing of like, that's been the cool thing for me, is to be able to work with the people who I consume their content, if that makes sense. Like, obviously, I've been doing video games a long time, so Lucy James comes by, who the fuck cares? But it's like, you got Santi Zap, you got Queen of the Ring, you know what I mean? You got Sam Roberts. It's like, these are people I listen to or watch on the daily, you know what I mean? So it's such a big deal that we were able to do this, Alex. Thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I had so much fun.
Ladies and gentlemen, of course, thank you for watching and consuming this, all 12 of you. It's been a great pleasure of us to do this and try some wrestling content here on Kind of Funny. We've loved it. Thank you, like I said, to everyone who's been a guest, everyone who submitted a video, every one of the WWE superstars, our AEW superstars, our former AEW superstars, everybody who's been fantastic enough to support this for us. Remember, of course, if you like what we do, Kind of Funny membership's a way to say, hey, thank you. You can get every show ad-free. You can get the podcast in the afternoon live as we record them. And, of course, you can get the multimedia experience known as Greg Way each and every day. Of course, you get the screencast for free, youtube.com/kindoffunny, podcast services around the globe. Remember, WrestleMania preview this week, and then next week, the WrestleMania review. Until next time, follow the buzzards.